I hope this does not happen just to me. I hope you all experience this more than once. We attend an amazing representation at the NEC, for example. We tour a beautiful museum, maybe during a trip overseas. We have a wonderful evening with close friends, and we laugh so much that our stomach hurt. Then a few weeks later, we try to share this specific episode with someone who was not present that day. And for some reason, we struggle to find the words to communicate the emotion we felt. We cannot find a way to recreate the magic and the uniqueness of the moment. We become a little frustrated, and finally we gave up by saying, well, I guess you had to be there to understand. Today is Palm Sunday, and as we read once again the story of Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem, we remember that much has been said and written about this event. We recall the traditional explanation that the crowds saw in Jesus a political messiah or a great hero who would free them from the yoke of the Roman Empire and restore David's ancient kingdom. And we like to assume that everyone, even the disciple, misunderstood Jesus' nature and completely overlooked all the signs in front of their eyes, pointing to ancient prophecies. To paraphrase the great theologian John Dominic Crescent, we like to believe that the people in the ancient times were not as smart as we are and regarded the scriptures and events literally, and while we understand its symbolism. But what if they were the one well aware of the power of images, storytelling, parables, and we are the ones dumb enough to spend hours on one single word or verse in our Bibles? What if we're the ones who were not there and totally do not get it? So we come to this morning text from the Gospel according to Mark with all this baggage, and also the location where it's located in the narrative of Jesus' life. However, when we look at the story for itself, we discover what? An itinerant preacher from the province of Galilee who come to the capital city to share his message. We meet disciples who found a colt for their master and threw their clothes on it before Jesus sat on it. We witness a procession made up of a horde of unimportant individuals. There was nothing special or spectacular about them. They were just a bunch of powerless, ridiculous, vulnerable people parading in the streets of a large city. And this procession was not even a special event in the history of Jerusalem. No. The people had witnessed several ones before. In the older times, many kings and war heroes had triumphal parades in the holy city, and in Jesus' time, the Roman army liked to display their power by marching on Jerusalem on important days and festivals. Oh yes. There was nothing special about Jesus' arrival into Jerusalem. And yet, for some reason, something happened. The people got excited. They gathered around Jesus, and many spread their cloaks on the ground, and others spread leafy branch they have caught previously in the field. And those who went away and those who followed began to shout the words we still remember today: Hosanna, blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming of the kingdom of our ancestor David. Hosanna in the highest heaven. Why this happened on this specific day, at this specific time, it's difficult to say. For some reason, the people present that day felt some electricity in the air. Those who were looking for answers, those who were struggling just to survive, those who were oppressed by an authoritarian regime, began to believe that maybe, just maybe, something else was possible. Maybe the injustice of this world could be overcome. Maybe freedom from abusive powers was possible. Maybe the deliverance from weapons and military forces has finally arrived. Maybe equality and equity could be one of the core values of the relationship between one another. Maybe they were witnessing a world-altering moment. Maybe a revolution based on peace, love, and compassion was beginning. Maybe a complete new world was on its way. Maybe this time there is hope. Well, as we look at the events following Jesus' entry into Jerusalem, well, maybe the people got excited for nothing. Because we know the rest of the story. On the next day, when Jesus returned to the city, absolutely no one welcomed him with excitement. The magic and the frenzy were gone. Jerusalem went back to its ordinary business and routine. Jesus went back to the temple, preached a little, and after a few days, he was arrested, tried, and crucified. All the public display, chanting, and enthusiasm had no real impact on his faith. All of it seemed to be a complete waste of time and energy. Somehow this story makes me think of the Occupy movement. You remember this, the Occupy movement? During the autumn of 2011, students and militants of all sorts began to denounce, to protest, to occupy public spaces around the world. They were chanting, "We are the 99%, and we are demanding a profound transformation of our society. We want the end of social and economic inequalities. We want a democracy led by the people and not large corporations. We want a new social order." And after a few weeks, the authorities began to arrest the protester. Winter came, and the people eventually went back home. Our socio-economic system did not change. Today, the 1% of our world is richer than before, and according to what we have learned regarding Facebook, our democracy and its institution did not really improve. For many, the Occupy movement felt like a complete failure. And yet it's difficult to deny that something has changed. While the Donald recently asked the Pentagon to organize a multi-million-dollar military parade on Pennsylvania Avenue because he saw one in France, and he has this compulsion to show the world that everything he possesses is bigger than everybody else. Hundreds of thousands of teenagers and young adults are walking out of their schools and taking the streets of their city to demand common sense gun control policies. And some commentators have begun to call them the Dumbledore's Army, after the student organization in the Harry Potter series. A bunch of ordinary kids decided to stand up and confront the most powerful lobby of the most powerful country in the world, They refuse to be intimidated or belated by the adults of their society. They are everywhere in the media. They spread the message on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, name it. All those young people, often not even old enough to vote, are processing, are chanting slogans because they believe a better world is possible. Their society can change. And somehow they're right. Of course, mass shooting has not stopped. And today there's still more guns in circulation than people living in the United States of America. However, for the first time in decades, the National Rifle Association approval rating is below 50%. And some states and some large retail stores have changed their policies regarding guns. This movement, like the Occupy movement, like Black Lives Matters, like Idle No More, like Me Too, and many others, has an impact in our world because it opens our mind, raises awareness, challenge our assumption and our values, transform our mentalities, and prepare us for the next time we will have to mobilize ourselves. Instead of changing the whole system, we might say, these mass movements of ordinary people can transform us from inside out. Yes, Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem might have hastened his crucifixion. Authorities of all times never like to see their power and their privilege challenged. However, it might also have begun a pivotal movement of transition for the people. For a few minutes, maybe for the first time in their lives, a bunch of ordinary individuals began to believe they could organize themselves. Their minds were open to a different message, to a different reality. They started to dream of a society based on peace and on justice. They might even understand that their movement could be more than the words and the deeds of one single individual, as great, as charismatic, as wonderful as he can be. Maybe this specific procession prepared them to believe in what is considered unbelievable: a man coming back from the dead, a renewed creation for the benefit of all, a universe turning the corner from profound darkness to the dawn of a new light. We might not have been there. We might never fully understood what exactly happened on this specific day. We might not have all the words to explain the frenzy surrounding Jesus' entrance in Jerusalem. Nevertheless, this event can still show us what happens when the people come together and begin to believe. May we, at our turn, join the procession and demand a profound transformation of our world. Amen.